Hey, welcome in, everybody. It is Orange and Blue today, Wednesday before Thanksgiving. And my goodness, Mace, we already kind of knew what we were going to talk about. Of course, back out the facility, we can talk about Pat Surtain and Alex Singleton. Yeah. And, of course, we're going to talk about Luke Wattenberg. That deal comes down about 7:30, whatever, last night. And then they got another one in Malcolm Roach, a pretty newsy, informative, jam-packed show today.
Yeah, 2 re-signings in the last 24 hours with Luke Wattenberg and Malcolm Roach, along with Will Lutz last Friday, so 3 in the last week. It's probably also newsworthy to note one that wasn't done, and not really a surprise, but John Franklin Myers not included in that as well. Right. And I think we've talked about that when the Broncos drafted Savion Jones, that probably kind of telegraphed maybe what the outcome would be for JFM. But the fact that things haven't been done for John Franklin Myers probably kind of tells you where it's going long term. I mean, JFM is probably going to get a nice contract from somebody else, but it just may not be something that where the Broncos can get it done cap-wise for a deal that would be fair for JFM based on what he's going to merit. But they get it done with Luke Wattenberg, and basically the Broncos choosing continuity on the offensive line.
And getting maybe a deal, Mace, if he had to hit the open market, he probably would have got more than what he got.
Yes. I mean, he actually gets a deal that the guaranteed money is slightly more than what Lloyd Cushenberry got a couple of years ago, but the average per year is a little bit below what Cush got a couple of years ago. So that's actually not bad in terms of the Broncos, in terms of getting fair value out of this deal. And Luke Wattenberg fitting what the Broncos want from their center. They want somebody, who's pretty good at getting things set pre-snap. Wattenberg better in pass protection than as a run blocker. I mean, yeah, you'd like somebody perhaps who'd have a bit more power coming off the snap, but at the same time, almost anyone in today's game will tell you if you have to choose between a run blocker or a pass protector at center, they're going to choose the guy who's more proficient in pass protection. And he is one of the more efficient pass blockers at center in the game today. So that's what the Broncos are going with. They're also banking on him getting better. Of course, this is only his second year as a starter. He's come a long way, and he's earned the respect of guys in the locker room. And here's Mike McGlinchey talking about what Luke Wattenberg has brought and has shown in the last couple of years as he's developed as a starter.
First and foremost, you could see how gifted of a mover he is. He gets into his ankles really well, runs off the ball well. And he's obviously incredibly intelligent to play the center position for us. There's a lot on his plate, and I think he uses his hands in protection about as good as anybody I've watched. And so he's sharpened that knife constantly over the 3 years that we've been together. And I fucking love Luke Wattenberg, man. And it's so cool that he got the contract that he did because he deserves it, and we're lucky to have him.
I love the mayor. I love the mayor. We don't have a beep button, but I'd beep it if I could. What respect from, one of the league's best, and Mike McGlinchey.
Yeah, that says a lot right there. That I'm surprised he didn't keep it clean on camera, but that's just when the mayor gets going, he just it just pops out.
It just flows. But it just shows that sign of respect, Mason. You brought it up before you played that clip. Wattenberg earned this.
Yeah.
He literally earned this. They did not hand him anything. After Lloyd Cushenberry, it was like, okay, what's the center position going to look like? Wattenberg had competition, good competition, and he won. He beat it out. He's growing and developing.
there was Alex Forsythe, of course, but remember they brought in a veteran in Sam Mustipher, so they had somebody in there who had starting experience in case neither Forsythe nor Wattenberg worked out, ready to step in and play if neither of the two young guys earned the trust. And also with Forsythe there, you had another guy that the Broncos could turn to and move on to if they didn't see what they liked from Wattenberg this year. So it was a contract year, but there was no guarantee heading into this year that he was going to get a new deal, because with Forsythe pushing him, they could have very easily decided, well, he's a year younger and we have team control on him. If they're comparable, we'll just go with the younger guy and let Wattenberg walk. So he had to earn the job to begin with, but he also had to really earn it again this year.
Right.
Because they could have easily said, all right, he's not $11 million in average per year value next year better than Alex Forsythe. So it says a lot for how they feel about him. And certainly continuity matters as well. And that was something McGlinchey talked about as he was discussing. It's funny, he was talking at the same time as Luke Wattenberg, our coworker, our friend Danilo Piro was getting Wattenberg, and I was talking with McGlinchey, in part because I knew that, with all due respect to Luke Wattenberg, Mike would probably have the most, not necessarily insightful, but he would have the most colorful quote of the day
Yeah.
about Luke
Check.
Wattenberg, and he did. Like, you know, you sort of know in this business, like, where to go for the colorful soundbite, and Mike's going to provide it. And but I would actually say that, but Mike talked about continuity. He said, yeah, I can't really recall in my career or even in the NFL keeping an entire offensive line together for 3 years and perhaps longer. I would say this probably augurs very well for Ben Powers. Now, you get to next offseason, there's still more dead money than cap savings regarding Ben Powers' contract. If the Broncos did move on from Ben Powers in the offseason, it's about a little over $9.5 million dead money and about $8.7 million saved if the Broncos were to part ways with Ben Powers in the offseason. But it is at the point where there is a question. It is a discussion point potentially if the Broncos wanted to get some cap savings. But the fact that Mike McGlinchey was talking about continuity, the fact that they chose continuity with Luke Wattenberg, probably augurs well for the chances of Ben Powers still being on this team when it heads for training camp in July of 2026, I would say.
I like what Sean Payton said at his press conference as well. Like, if you want to say, like, hey, draft a center and he'll start from day one, well, that would prove to be difficult. One, usually they're not there. And when they are there, Mace, how many times you and I say, hey, there's a center that's going to go top 10, top 20.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rare bird. And with Wattenberg, you already got a couple of years of development in.
Yeah, usually when you're talking about how many centers a year are ready to go, plug and play, it's like one.
Yeah.
Typically, and that's it. It's usually a position where you're talking about a 2 to 3 year development curve. Now, occasionally you have to put that guy out there early. Go back to Cush in 2020. Remember how much Cush struggled that year?
Mm-hmm.
And that was a year where offense had every advantage. That was a year where there were few to no fans in the stands, so you didn't ever have to go silent count. So it was an ideal environment for a center to get settled in, and Cush still really did not find his footing until his second year in the league. It takes time. And then by the time he got to year 3, he was coming along, and then he got injured. It was really that fourth season where you were like, okay, this guy's got becoming pretty good. And the other interesting thing to look back on, we may never have seen the Luke Wattenberg get the chance to develop if the Broncos hadn't had their hand forced on Russell Wilson and letting him go, because probably the number one cap casualty was Lloyd Cushenberry.
Yes.
If they didn't have that huge dead money hit of $53 million in the 2024 offseason on Russell Wilson's deal, Lloyd Cushenberry is almost certainly back with the Broncos in 2024. That was he was the one guy that was a tough sacrifice for the Broncos in that offseason. Like there were some choices. I think something that has been alluded to in that offseason, that they made some moves that, okay, we're kind of changing the culture and moving on. And even though you let some talented players go, I think like Justin Simmons, for example, was a talented player, but it was about kind of changing the culture a little bit. But Cush was the guy that they let go of that year that they didn't really want to lose, but they simply could not afford to keep him based on the type of contract that he was going to get. And indeed, he got a huge contract at the time for the center position that offseason. Yeah,
well-deserved of that contract. Broncos just couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But now they've got their center in Luke Wattenberg. How, I don't want to say shocked, I think that's hyperbolic, but I was on the air with our friend Will Peterson, and we were talking about the Wattenberg deal, and I said, it probably shows that Malcolm Roach, JFM, won't get new deals. 3 minutes later, Tom Pelissero said, George Payton's buddy, Tom Pelissero says, Malcolm Roach gets a new deal. And I'm so happy, Mace, because you can't keep everyone. There's a great impermanence to everything. But keeping Malcolm Roach around is a benefit, because scouts call it a planet theory. There's only so many guys that big that can move that way. He's quick off the line. He's huge. He's strong. He's great for the culture. I mean, my God, you want to talk about personality? Malcolm Roach, everybody. Mr. Personality, also Mr. Denver Bronco.
Yeah, $14 million guaranteed is actually pretty reasonable for him as well. We're talking about an APY that's under $10 million a year. So he's coming in a little bit under the DJ Jones contract in APY. But this is not an onerous deal. This is very reasonable. And he's going to come in well under the John Franklin Myers contract. So
very much so.
So just kind of bear that in mind here. It's a substantial deal for somebody who, is probably more of a rotational type of defensive lineman as you're looking at things. And I would say probably, even if you move on from JFM, I'd say probably Malcolm ends up remaining a rotational defensive lineman. I think if you're looking at, say, what's the long-term plan here, I think if they do part ways with John Franklin Myers, I think their expectation and maybe even their hope is that Savion Jones would slide right into his position in the starting lineup for 2026.
Right.
So that's something to kind of keep your eye on as we get into next year, assuming that's what happens. But culture does matter, and Malcolm Roach is very important to the locker room culture. He's the jokester. He's the guy that kind of keeps everything light. And one of the things that you hear from a lot of guys is that he has that same demeanor no matter what's going on. Like they could have been coming off a tough loss the day before, or they could have just had a big win the day before. And he's still coming in with that same ebullience. So that's something that matters a great deal as well. Remember how much we talked about how important it was that they bounced back so quickly after that Kansas City loss last year. The type of emotional defeat that could have broken this team, could have broken a lot of teams. I mean, that was probably the most devastating defeat. You and I mentioned it since that Baltimore playoff loss in January of 2013.
Right.
And yet the Broncos' response to it was to play their most complete football game probably since maybe even the Super Bowl 50 year, in terms of offense, defense, special teams, all coming through and dominating that game they played against the Atlanta Falcons. And certainly it's a team-wide culture thing. Malcolm Roach is one of the guys who plays a huge role in that, in terms of this team not cratering, not getting too down after a loss like that. That he comes in and he is the same guy, this joyful presence. If you hear a bunch of guys on that practice field laughing, there's a good chance that Malcolm Roach is at the center of it.
Yeah.
He's just a really delightful person to be around. Like, just, I mean, there's always, for whatever reason, it's always sunny in Malcolm Roach's world. It's pretty cool.
I like that. I like that. Emotion is information, not instruction. And he's got an even keel. Fun guy.
Yeah.
Good time guy. You're going to look to him as a leader with that sort of attitude.
Yeah. A locker room needs all types of personalities. I mean, you need your thoughtful types, You need your thoughtful types. You need your realists to kind of, make sure everyone doesn't get too high, but you also need your guys that are going to always have that optimism and kind of lighten the mood and pick everybody up. If someone's down, going to turn that frown upside down. That's Malcolm Roach. That's one of the things he does for not just the defensive line, but the entire room. That defensive line room also, it's a really perfect collection of personalities, and they all kind of play off each other. And Malcolm was sort of the piece that kind of brought everybody together in a lot of ways. So it would have hurt beyond on-field value. It would have hurt greatly, I think, for this team to lose Malcolm Roach. And I think there was a pretty good recognizance of that in the highest levels of the front office. So this is one of those moves that outside of Denver, it's going to go under the radar, but within the walls of that building, they know how important it was to keep him around.
And on this show, we will simply say, Zang. It's Orange and Blue today. Wayne's World, everybody. Well, Orange and Blue today, Cecil, Lammey, Andrew, Mason. We got a ton more news about halfway down. Let's hear a word from Ramos Law before we get to updates on Pat Surtain, Alex Singleton, and maybe even J.K. Dobbins. Ooh. Spicy!
Today's episode of Orange and Blue Today is presented by Ramos Law, the official injury law firm partner of the Denver Broncos. Ramos Law was founded by Dr. Joseph Ramos, an attorney and ER doctor, to provide exceptional care to those injured in accidents. With a unique understanding of both medicine and law, the Ramos Law team is built to fight for you every step of the way. Experience the Ramos Law difference. Contact them today at ramoslaw.com.
You were out at practice.
Yeah.
You were waiting to write your piece at denversports.com about a couple of defensive players back at practice.
Yeah. Jonah Ellis back. Pat Surtain back. Alex Singleton back.
Right on.
Yeah. Really, really good sign. Alex Singleton back. Full participation for Alex Singleton, by the way. Coming back. Not even 3 weeks after surgery for testicular cancer. Just
wow.
remarkable. And I mean, think about this for a moment. I mean, and he talked about this. The thought going through his mind before that Raiders game, that like before the Texans game, before the Raiders game, like, hey, what if this is my last game that I ever play? Here's Alex talking about that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know if it was, but it was definitely a thought of when I found out Monday that the one thing I wanted to do was play that game, because if it was, I wanted to go out on my own terms, not on the Texans game without really knowing.
And think about that. Like I mean, there's so many existential thoughts, understandably, that go through your mind when you hear the word cancer, right?
Oh yeah,
and
a literal or mortality, not
Yes.
even football mortality. Your literal
mortality.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he still wanted to play that game. Well, one of the things I asked him, he talked about how he loved being out there today, and even when he played that game against the Raiders, how he could put it behind him and not think about it when he was between the lines, and how when he was out there practicing today, that he's between the lines, he's not thinking about it. And I said, okay, kind of, how is it though when you're just kind of studying football or you're watching film? I mean, does it, does your mind kind of drift a little bit, or is the focus there? And he said, no. He told me, like, no, it's the same thing when I'm studying, whenever I'm doing anything football. He said, like, it's a chance to kind of get away from the rest of it. Mm-hmm. That it's his respite. And the thing is, like, it's still very much on his mind. Like, he's able to play and to practice, and he's hoping to / planning on playing on Sunday. And so far, all the indications are good for him. And, so far there's every sign that, the indications are that it hasn't spread. So everything is positive so far for him. But he acknowledges, like, long term, in terms of following up and things like that, it's, there are still things going on that he has to be concerned about here, because, sometimes there is, if you look at, if you dive into testicular cancer, and like he says, like, you don't want to start YouTubing, you don't want to start Googling, but, it's something that you have to, you have to keep monitoring and all that, and you have to keep having scans and things like that. So, he's not all, there, as he pointed out today, there are other scans and things like that they're still going through right now as he is preparing to play. So anything, practice, film study, meetings, anything football related for him is an escape. I mean, he's thought about his mortality. I mean, he's thought about the ability to, can he father more children in the future. He talked about that today. I mean, it's really remarkable that he's so willing to be open about this. I mean, he doesn't have to be, but he is. He's on Good Morning America on Tuesday. I mean, he's already, he's been a spokesperson for so many causes, and now here he is for another one. I mean, that's just,
he's built for this.
He's built for this. He also, I mean, he also talked about his love for football. He talked about how he plans to go into coaching after his career's done. Like, yeah,
I know a spot.
I can see Alex taking the Dan Campbell path over the years. Like, yeah, Alex is. I would be. I'm not a betting person. We know we're both anti-gambling on this show. Y'all know that, but. Alex Singleton's going to be somebody's head coach, I think, at some point. I think that's a when, not an if, for this guy. Like, maybe even Broncos head coach someday. Who knows?
Who knows? The future.
That'd be pretty cool.
Is always in motion.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
That would be really cool to have him be a Broncos head coach someday. I think he'd do a great job.
So feeling good about Singleton's availability. Nothing for sure yet. Surtain was not made available to us at the podium.
Yeah, like
Any
that. He's
concerned there. I know when players are banged up, we don't get them.
He's limited, so that's just kind of part of the process. I would not be surprised if he's limited. If they upgrade him to full by Friday, it's one of those things where we may hear from him Friday. Sometimes what they do is limited, full. If he goes on that progression, then sometimes the player would talk in the locker room Friday. That's sort of when the clearance happens. So wouldn't be surprised if on Friday afternoon when we're doing this show, maybe you hear a little bit from PS2. That would be a very good sign going forward. It may well depend on how coy they want to be in terms of PS2's possible return. Are they going to play the games and say he's questionable leading up to Sunday? Or are they not going to put any kind of designation on him and say, okay, he's good to go? The only real negative today was Nate Adkins was not on the field at all. He was a DNP. And of course, Nate did not go on injured reserve after he injured his knee the same day as PS2 suffered the pec injury against the Cowboys. So by not putting Nate on injured reserve, they were thinking he'd be back by now, so that's a concern. But let's get back to the good or potentially good news here, because we got an indication from Sean Payton that we could see Drew Sanders at some point later on this year. So that's a good sign. And possibly could we see J.K. Dobbins maybe later on? Here's Sean Payton.
Yeah, but it's going to be later. But yes. And we monitor the progress. Bo goes through the report, and I don't have the game, but and honestly, the same could be said with Dobbins.
Yeah. At first, was talking about Drew Sanders and then talking about J.K.
And he mentioned Bo Lowry there, just for folks out there.
Not Bo Nix, Bo Lowry.
Right. B-E-A-U-X. Bo
No,
Lowry.
It's not an X. It's B-E-A-U.
I put an X on it because I call him King Dingaling, Bo Lowry. We love him on... it's from Bad Boys.
Oh, okay.
On Dover and Cecil, that's our nickname for him. And Bo is a great guy. He's turned things around. Of course, Sean talks about it all the time. But here we go.
Yeah.
They're throwing in their JK at the end.
That was interesting.
I was like, oh, wasn't expecting that. That wasn't on my bingo card today.
Yeah. I mean, when he went on injured reserve, there were some rumblings that they were thinking, all right, he could be back by the Super Bowl, perhaps. I mean, the Liz Frank injury, it's best case scenario, you talk months rather than weeks. So that means January in all likelihood. This may end up being something. Do you recall back in the 2012 season, they went to playoffs and you had Willis McGahee, not the same injury, but kind of the same time frame. And the hope was to get Willis McGahee back by maybe the AFC Championship. And unfortunately for the Broncos, of course, they lost in the divisional round to Baltimore, so you didn't see McGahee back.
That was such a great team, a complete team. Loved them.
Yeah, and one of the unfortunate things was McGahee, as it turned out, was the guy they really could have used.
Marino getting banged up in that Ravens game, and then R.I.P. to Ronnie Hillman. He tried out there.
He didn't have the body type to be the guy to get to pound in and get 2 or 3 yards. And I thought, with all due respect to the late Ronnie Hillman, it was a mistake to give him the ball. They had Jacob Hester as a fullback that year. Mm-hmm. That it should have been Hester getting the carries there. That he didn't have much speed, but he could have burrowed and I think had a better shot to get the tough yards. And if it had been me, I would have been giving him those carries there, not Ronnie Hillman.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hate to play the what if on a game that's nearly 13 years ago, but I remember thinking it that day, watching the game, and when Hillman was out there, I'm like, I would have. I don't you give it to Hester here, and so. Anyway,
Yes.
ugh.
Orange and blue today. Let's go ahead and save the Bo thing for our Friday or Saturday
Yeah.
show. We will be back on
The
Friday.
other Bo, the Knicks, Bo Nix.
Bo
Yes.
Nix, Bo
Yeah.
Nix, Mr. Bo Nix, your quarterback. We'll save that for our Friday or Saturday show. If something big breaks, which who the hell knows with this team, we might have to do an emergency
Well,
Thanksgiving show.
yeah, I mean, you hope something does not break on Thursday, because the fact that they got PS2 back and Alex Singleton back on Wednesday, if something breaks on Thursday, unless it's somehow like a contract, a re-signing, like somehow maybe things did change and they did get JFM done, but the rumblings were they were negotiating with a couple more guys, and it looks they got a couple more done here in Wattenberg and Malcolm Roach, beyond Will Lutz. And they got them done before practice. So now the bye week and the pause has come to an end, and the calendar is turned back to football. So what I'm saying is, if there's big news on Thursday, it would probably be bad for the Broncos. So as a Broncos fan, the Broncos fan watching this show, since almost certainly if you're watching this show, you're a Broncos fan, unless you're hate watching this as a Chiefs fan or something, or a Raiders fan or something.
Hey, welcome. You help our YouTube numbers.
Yeah, we
too.
appreciate you watching if you're a Chiefs fan
Your
or a
team
Raiders
stinks.
fan. Yeah, or a Washington Commanders fan, which you're not really hate watching. You're maybe trying to get a little
Intel
on your opponent, and maybe you're a Washington fan watching in Virginia, my home state, in which case I really appreciate you Commonwealth folk joining me here. But anyhow, if there's news on Thursday from the Broncos on Thanksgiving Day, it's probably bad. So I think most in Broncos country hope for a very quiet holiday of just watching other teams, watching football, a lot of good college basketball, maybe watching some of that, and just enjoying your meal and your family and whatever else you enjoy on Thanksgiving Day.
Yep. Some good football on Thanksgiving. Again, we'll be back Friday at our normal time. We'll have our Saturday show, of course. And to wrap up today's show, Mace, I just want to say I'm thankful for my family. I'm thankful for our audience, just making Orange and Blue today such a strong brand name in Broncos country. I believe we have the best show about the Broncos. Sorry, that's not being braggadocious. That's just what I believe. And I thank you, Mace, to be a dear friend away from our boxes. But here in our boxes is where we get to have fun. We get to put everything to the side. And, everyone out there, I would just a reminder, we're all like the duck swimming across the water. It looks nice and calm, and underneath it's like playing the bongos.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have this. It's nice to have you as a brother, and just know, like, I know you're going to bring it every day. I know what to expect from you. I know that, we've got the same goals in mind, and we're reaching them, and thankful for our audience to do that. But you, my friend, do a lot of good for me, and I thank you for that.
Likewise, very well said. I couldn't really express it any better. I'm thankful for you, thankful for everyone who joins us on a regular basis. The comments are always terrific, so appreciate all of you riding with us, whether you're watching this show live or making us a part of your Thanksgiving day. Thanks for riding with us any time of day or night, all throughout the year, and making this possible for us to do this and bring the Broncos to you in some small way. So really appreciate this, and grateful for all of you for being on the road with us. So thank you.
And away we go. Before we're out of here, how can folks help us out on YouTube?
Like,
comment,
share,
subscribe,
hit that notification bell
so that you
never miss
vid. That's right. He is Andrew Mason. You follow him on all those socials. He's at Mace Denver. I am at Cecil Lammey saying OBT's a BFD. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and would you please stay frosty?